Welcome to Growing Our Retirement. Today we're going to talk about a November checklist to button up the garden. It's November, we've had a couple of frosts, and there's lots to do in the garden. One of the first things I do is I pull out any self-sowing annuals that I planted in the spring, specifically my cleome or spider plant. This will have thousands of seeds on it. Mine were gigantic and it was bursting with seeds, and I didn't want those seeds falling wherever they felt like it. I want to tell the seeds where to go. So I pulled the plant out, I gathered the seeds that I wanted to keep, and then I dragged it off into the woods where it won't thrive or grow. You can do that with other annuals or other things that are self-sowing that you just want to control. This time of year I like to plant bulbs, specifically allium bulbs for me. I like to plant them in the garden, and then I mark where I planted them with a stake, a bamboo stake. It could be a stick, it could be a golf tee, just something that designates where that bulb is, so that in the spring, you have probably experienced this because I know I have, you won't dig into a bulb and they're huge, cut half of it off, and then your allium doesn't thrive and you have to start all over again. So mark where you put your alliums in the fall when you plant them, then in the spring you'll know exactly where they were and nothing will get damaged. I like to cut back my hardy perennials this time of year, specifically my catmint, my lavender, my spirea. I cut them back by a third. I don't do a super hard cut in the winter because we have very cold weather coming. We're in zone 6B, so for us, it's going to be below freezing possibly, or just above zero even sometimes. So I want to protect my plants by not cutting them back too much in the spring. I'll give them another little trim to invigorate growth, but for the fall I cut them back by a third. Some plants I won't cut back though. I had planted a row of lavender that started out as a single cell plant, little, 1x1 cube, and now it's this big, but it's still tender and it's a baby. So I don't want to cut it back now. I don't want to shock it. I don't want it to be not equipped for the cold weather coming. So I'm going to leave it be, and then in the spring I'll give it a little snip, and that also will be invigorated for spring growth. I also don't want to cut back my Russian sage. I'm going to leave that be. Russian sage doesn't like its crown exposed to cold weather. Now the crown, here's the dirt, here's the earth, under here are all the roots, and up here is the plant. So here's the crown right there. So you don't want to cut your sage back to the crown because it'll be shocked, it will not thrive, and it may not come back in the spring. So just leave it be. It happens to be one of those plants that looks really cool in the winter. It remains and keeps its shape, and it's just a nice plant, adds some structure to your garden for the winter. Some perennials I will not cut back. Those would be black-eyed Susans, purple coneflowers, like I talked about, the Russian sage, my millennium alliums. These things all have seeds in them, and I'm going to leave them for the birds. Now I cut back many of my plants, but some things I'm going to leave for the birds to forage. And then if I actually want to put my seeds in any certain place, I could always take some of them, shake it out where I want it or where they already are if I want more to grow there, and then they'll self-propagate in the spring. But for now, I'm just letting nature take care of things and letting the birds have a little snack. Mulch. This is a good time of year to add a layer of mulch around your perennials in the garden, just to insulate them and giving them a little bit of a head start for the spring so that the cold doesn't just get to them, and so they thrive. But I like to use what nature's already providing me, which are leaves. If you look around, you see all these trees have lost their leaves. We have oak leaves and all sorts of leaves all over the property. I have Larry blow them into my garden for me. That way it insulates it, it keeps the weeds down, and it keeps the plants nice and cozy for the winter, and just helps them out to give them a good head start for the spring. So put your leaves in the garden, use it as mulch, mow your leaves, take all that mulch, put it in the garden, and use what nature gives you. This is a good time of year, like I just mentioned, to sow some seeds. If you're going to buy your seed packets now and or take them from plants that you already have, It's a good time to get them in the earth. They'll do their cold stratification naturally with the winter and the snow and the rain. And then in the spring, they'll be ready to burst open and surprise you with some fabulous plants. Now, I can't remember what the percentage is, but a lot of seeds just don't germinate, period. So make sure you throw plenty in where you want them, and hopefully in the spring you'll have some awesome plants. Also, look out for a new video coming out about how to winter sow in milk jugs over the winter. Weeding. Now is a good time of year to weed. You've cut back some of your plants, you can see the earth around it, and you can see the weeds, and the earth is soft and supple. It's not hard because it's not dry right now. And just pull those weeds up to get a good head start for the spring. I have a lot of clay pots on my property and around the patio and in the front that if it gets cold and freezes and thaws out and does that process several times, it very well might crack and break. And I don't want my clay pots to break. I have some real beauties out there. So what I do is I take a clear plastic bag and I cover the pot with the whole bag and I tuck it underneath so it doesn't blow away. And that acts like a greenhouse. It insulates it, it keeps the warmth in, it keeps the moisture in, and in the spring you'll see these vibrant green plants popping up inside the bag, and it'll be as happy as can be. If I have a plant in a plastic pot, like a lot of my ferns are in plastic pots, and you know, they will winter over, but I like to help them out also. I put a bag around them and I place them under an overhang that it will get exposed to sun, some snow and rain, but it won't be like really downpoured on, or the snow will just be covering it. And I keep it in a sunny spot just to give it a head start and just to keep it insulated and happy. So try this out. Cover them with clear plastic bags and make your own little mini greenhouses. See these pots behind me? These I had perennials growing in all summer long. I've just cut them back. I've left the dirt in it. And you see that big pine right there, that white pine? I'm gonna cut greens and pine and holly, and I have some white birch twigs, and I'm going to put them in there for the winter. Now, because you kept the dirt in, it will freeze, but it'll retain moisture and the rain, and so the branches will stay saturated and they'll stay healthy all winter long. They will not dry out, and they'll just be a beauty to see throughout the cold weather. Stay tuned for another video on how to use your greens from your property to dress up your home for Christmas. Pulling out perennials or dividing perennials, this is a great time of year to do that. I had some perennials that just weren't doing it for me anymore. They weren't performing well, they weren't thriving, so I pulled them out, I cut them in half, and I put them in pots. So you can overwinter your perennials that you're not ready to do something with in a pot with good soil, put them in a sunny place, and then the snow and the rain, just like as if they were in the ground, they'll stay healthy and well, just like in a nursery, throughout the whole winter. And then you don't have to make any rash decisions about where you want to put something just because you've pulled it out of the ground. So pull things out, divide them, and put them in pots. Tool maintenance. Now is a good time of year to sharpen your chainsaw, to sharpen your shears, to lubricate and grease up some things that might have gotten, gunked up or left out in the rain by accident once or twice. It's a good time to just get your tools in ship shape, in order, cleaned, take a Brillo pad, get the rust off them, and disinfect them, and so they'll be all ready for the spring and a new season. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this November checklist on how to button up your garden for the winter, and I'll see you next time.